Babes in Spyland. How now, sad cow? Episode 1. The aromatic garland of white orchids, yellow lilies, and baby blue morning glory hung over the metal detector like askew drapes, failing to hide the drab, gunmetal gray housing underneath. Even after calling in a third florist and an extra bundle of greenery, Agent Amphibian Queen couldn't figure out how to disguise the machine. Maybe a few more on this side. She squinted in an attempt to picture the results of her suggestion. The sun beat down on them like a hammer, and Super Secret Agent Amphibian Queen really wanted a cool, refreshing hilly dew. It's a metal detector. Agent Buttynose crossed her arms over her stomach and glared at the machine as if it had personally offended her. Sweat plastered the stray tendrils of hair from her blonde ponytail to the back of her neck. It's not supposed to be pretty. Amphibian Queen ignored her partner. Agent Buttynose had been rampaging since they'd touched down in sunny Los Angeles the day before. Agent Amphibian Queen had decided that the woman must be at a delicate time of the month, and would need a snack soon. Agent Buttynose was prone to random acts of violence if not kept sufficiently fed. One of the florists, a tall man with a long face standing on a ladder, pulled a length of wire out of his pocket and wrapped it around both the flowers and the top span of the detector. A loud, screeching noise blasted through the air. Amphibian Queen flinched and resisted the urge to cover her ears. Buttynose had reached her breaking point. "How many times do I have to tell you?" She strode forward, her voice cracking like a whip. "You can't wrap anything metal around the metal detector." The florist fumbled for his clippers. In his haste, the tool slipped and fell to the custom, rose-patterned concrete walk with a clatter. A shrill voice somehow overpowered the alarm. "What is going on here?" Wonderful. They'd drawn the attention of their charge. Amphibian Queen turned to intercept Social Know-All. The woman stalked toward them, wearing a gauzy pink swimsuit cover-up, strappy heels that the newly dubbed Agent Sugarlips might kill for, and a striped, wide-brimmed hat that practically reached out and touched the whole yard. The servants, delivery boys, and security team backed away even faster from her than they had shied from Buttynose. "What is that noise?" Social demanded, stopping only because Agent Amphibian Queen, who stood a head taller than Social, held her ground. Amphibian Queen dredged up her most professional smile. "We're putting the final touches on the flowers here," she said. "We thought we should test the machine before we moved on." Social didn't like the term metal detector because it made her feel like her yearly garden party was turning into a trip through the non-diamond members security line at the airport. Social placed a hand on her slim hip. "Well, it works." Even at almost 50 years old, she looked and acted like a young 20-something debutante. Mercifully, the noise abated. Social's eyes slipped from Amphibian Queen's face to the scene beyond. She pointed a long, manicured finger and said, "I can still see that awful machine." "We have another bundle of flowers coming." Amphibian Queen hoped the florist would catch the hint and have the order here in less than an hour. "I thought you said you were finished." Social frowned. To Amphibian Queen's surprise, Agent Buttynose stepped up next to her. "We're finished with the initial installation of the machine and trust the florists to wrap up here. We're about to move on to the garden." Buttynose held Social's gaze, as if daring the woman to question her statement. Social glared back. Amphibian Queen smiled, grateful she wasn't involved in the battle of wills. After a moment, Social huffed. A series of ominous thumps sounded from the driveway, and Social's attention whipped from the super-secret agents to the delivery coordinator. "You!" Social directed her finger to a short, sweat-covered man who had just come around the corner. "Has everything arrived?" The delivery director held his clipboard out like a shield. His voice didn't carry much past it. "No, ma'am." "What?" Social stomped away from the agents and toward the cowering man. Agent Amphibian Queen elbowed her partner. "Good job." Buttynose let out a deep, dark sigh. "I hate that woman." "You hate everything today," Amphibian Queen pointed out, turning back to the metal detector. Yeah, maybe. This time Bunny Nose let out a more natural sigh and gestured toward a knot of security personnel fidgeting under a tree. I'm going to start on the garden or we'll never get finished by this afternoon. Can I take half of these guys? Only if you promise not to kill any of them. Amphibian Queen gave her partner a hard look. Would I do that? Bunny Nose asked with wide eyes. Yes. I'm offended. Amphibian Queen waggled a finger. No beating, yelling, or berating either. You're ruining my life. Don't worry, I'll send someone for snacks. The mention of snacks turned Bunny Nose's scowl into an expression of hope. Fine, I'll be nice, but not too nice. They work better under fear. She glanced over at where the small handful of Social's private security, a couple of agents from the LA office of SSA, and 4 guys who looked more like mercenaries than mere security with their black body armor and extra-large weapons, waited to be told what to do. Amphibian Queen shook her head. Fine, just remember if we keep this party in one piece, Mud might forgive us for Venice. Then maybe next time we'll get a real assignment. This isn't real enough for you? Bunny Nose asked, her sarcasm mode replacing the surly manner she'd adopted the day before. This is the garden party of the century. She bounced on the balls of her feet and waved her hands, fanning her cheeks. Anyone who is anyone will be here, including an impressive list of agricultural big shots, political figures, rich men, and us. We're living the dream, sister. Amphibian Queen suppressed a smirk. Is that what we're doing? The world envies us. Bunny Nose smacked her friend on the shoulder. Don't lie, you love this. I can see you gathering ideas for our next party. She smiled and walked toward the unsuspecting gaggle of security personnel. Bunny Nose was right. Amphibian Queen did love throwing parties. She planned to steal a bunch of ideas from this little gathering for their next soiree. Just not the giant metal detector. Definitely not the giant metal detector. For instance, the 3 fountains that juggled water back and forth among them hadn't looked like much until the ground crew put dye in each one and they spewed glittery, colored water that somehow didn't turn brown as the colors mixed, synchronized to a subtle soundtrack coming from hidden speakers. Each arrangement of flowers put delicious scents into the air as you passed, and the projector system kept everyone feeling happy as tiny pinpricks of light danced across the yard and into the gardens. Amphibian Queen's favorite bit so far had to be the paper lanterns. They crisscrossed the entire property, following the cobblestone paths and providing illumination for the badminton court and the extreme croquet course. Faces of the people coming to the party adorned the lanterns over the tables, a sort of sick seating chart that she planned to torture people with soon. Getting a mansion and its grounds, which had been made for showing off, not locking down, into a lean, mean, intruder-proof machine was taking every trick she and Bunny Nose had up their collective sleeves. They'd started with the house and the presentation ballroom, then moved outside. Now Amphibian Queen wondered if they would get the gardens finished in time. It wasn't even noon and Amphibian Queen already felt the pressure of a crushing deadline. Social continued to berate the delivery coordinator. Amphibian Queen didn't much care for Social, but she did know how to throw a party. And she did, unfortunately, know quite a few people from the super-secret agency arena, which is why Mud had sent them here. Plus, Mud was still mad about Venice. And about Bunny Nose getting caught by that Lady Cluck character a few weeks ago. And apparently, Mud and Social went way back. The tap-tap of someone running drew Amphibian Queen's attention. A woman wearing an apron and holding a shallow cardboard box was sprinting down the walkway. An array of appetizers filled the container. Amphibian Queen stepped out of the way, but the man who had set the metal detector off suddenly moved into the woman's path to retrieve his dropped clippers. The tiny woman bounced off the man, and the box of food went flying. Instincts honed through years of competitive obstacle course shooting kicked in, and Amphibian Queen moved to catch 3 of the items. The first, a roll filled with fancy tuna salad, landed safely in her left hand. The second, a cracker with a gray paste smeared on it, tried to land face down on her right palm, but she lowered her hand so the cracker landed neatly on her skin. Then, using the fingers of the same hand, she snatched a delicately frosted cupcake that reminded her of a candy bar right out of the air, not even squishing it, until she noticed what was sticking out of the top. the barrel and plunger of a syringe. Amphibian Queen's blood ran cold, and her hand refused to keep its grip. The cupcake teetered on the brink for a moment, before Amphibian Queen jerked her whole body away in revulsion. The confection fell to the ground, landing frosting and needle into the lawn first. The cracker followed. Amphibian Queen's body froze while her heart raced. Images of her tied to a chair in a warehouse, surrounded by men in bad suits, threatened to overtake reality. Her fingers began to tingle. Breathe. She closed her eyes and inhaled, focusing on the sun heating her skin. You're in California, not Russia. The needle is probably full of caramel, not drugs. There are no mobsters in sight. She slowly exhaled, and her fingers clenched when she made a fist. Social screeched something at the same time Amphibian Queen's phone started to play the theme from Murder, He Typed. The woman from the kitchen snatched the tuna roll from Amphibian's left hand, but when she saw the cupcake, she threw herself on the ground, wailing. Agent Amphibian Queen closed her eyes and took another deep breath, counting to 5. She'd worked hard to overcome this, and she wasn't about to let a dessert disaster ruin her day. Murder, He Typed kept playing. Amphibian Queen took one more second to ground herself before she retrieved her phone. She swiped a shaking finger across the screen and answered a moment before it would have gone to voicemail. Amphibian Queen. Mud didn't even bother to say hello. How are things going? Amphibian Queen inhaled deeply and turned her back to the now weeping woman. She took a few unsteady steps away, but when she spoke, her voice was calm. We're on schedule for the party tonight. Any problems? Nope. She figured she wouldn't mention the metal detector disaster, or the fact that Bunnynose may or may not have almost taken out a tall, ripped, blonde pool boy who had tried to sneak back onto the premises after he'd met his girlfriend to make out just outside the fence, or the fact that she felt like throwing up. As if on cue, Social Noel's shrill voice filled the air around her. Agent Frog Lady, why aren't you at Cloud 9? Amphibian Queen repressed an eye roll and turned, pointing to the phone. Social waved her concern away and kept coming. I need you to get to Cloud 9 right now. Mud inquired, What's Cloud 9? Amphibian Queen repeated the question to Social. The Cloud 9 bovine estate? Social's eyes flashed, and she ground her bleached white teeth together. The milk leaves in an hour, and you must escort it to Billy Bonka's. Hold on, Amphibian Queen said to Mud before she spoke to Social. What are you talking about? The milk! Social cried, her face grave. You must escort the milk from the farm to the chocolate factory. This was the first Amphibian Queen had heard about milk, but she already had an assignment. We still need to secure the garden and the croquet course, and check all of the lanterns. Don't you have a security team that could take this job? The thin frown lines on Social's face deepened. She stepped forward, her nose inches from Amphibian Queen's chest. Even a head shorter, the woman didn't hesitate to try to intimidate the super-secret agent. Amphibian Queen didn't even blink. She'd faced down Russian mob bosses, angry indigenous tribes, and archaeologists who thought she'd ruined their digs. Social was more like a petulant child than anything else. However, Social's voice took on a dark cadence. Mud sent you here to make sure this party goes off without a hitch. I need you to escort that milk. She glanced around and lowered her voice. Hundreds of the world's leading agriculturists will be here this evening, along with more government dignitaries than you can put in a swimming pool on a hot day. The Swiss may finally lose their monopoly. Amphibian Queen kept a look of total confusion off her face. As far as she knew, there was one government official coming and several high-profile businessmen. I'm sorry, I don't understand. This time Social reached out and poked Amphibian Queen in the arm. People are going to try to sabotage those chocolates, or the milk, or both. This cannot happen. Her voice grew louder, like someone clicked the volume up a few times. Take your badly dressed, surly partner and make sure the milk gets there on time and in perfect condition. Amphibian Queen felt like she should hold her ground. Mud sent us to supervise security. We can most effectively do that if we remain here. Perhaps one of our local teams can go. Or the armed-to-the-teeth mercenaries still hanging out under the tree. They looked like they could handle some escorting. The ring of an old-fashioned payphone drifted out from somewhere on Social's person. The woman's hand thrust into her bosom and came out with a pink bejeweled phone. She looked at the screen, then glanced up at Agent Amphibian Queen with a sneer of triumph. Flicking her finger, she brought the phone to her ear. "Mud, how nice of you to call." Amphibian Queen looked down at her own phone and noted the black screen. Traitorous boss. Social went on. "I was just asking Agent Toadwoman to go and escort my milk." She spread her lips into a wicked smile. "But it seems she thinks there are more important things for her to be doing." A pause. Social nodded. "Of course." She held her phone out for Amphibian Queen, an icy chill in her eyes. "Mud would like to speak with you." Amphibian Queen took the phone and steeled herself. "Amphibian Queen here," she said, putting special emphasis on her name. "What are you doing?" Mud demanded. "We're not finished with perimeter security," Amphibian Queen started. Mud interrupted her, voice becoming slow, methodical, and dangerous. "Social is your boss for the weekend. She wants you to dance with the smelly goat herders. You dance with the smelly goat herders. She tells you to taste test poison food. Try to. And if she says to go ride shotgun in a milk wagon, you do it." The edict reached through the phone and slapped Agent Amphibian Queen in the face. All at once, she felt just as hostile as her partner. "Yes, ma'am," she said, letting the frost leach from her voice and through the line. "I'll keep that in mind." "Good." With that, Mud hung up.